She sat there for 4 hours. 4 hours in a red dress she had saved 3 months to buy. 4 hours watching the candle on the table melt down to nothing. 4 hours checking her phone, refreshing, waiting, hoping. And when she finally saw the photo posted online, him holding another woman in a penthouse suite, laughing, she didn't cry, she didn't scream. She just stood up, left the restaurant, and walked into the rain. That was the night everything satisfying about her old life ended, and the night something far more dangerous began. Before we go any further, if you love deep emotional stories that stay with you long after they end, subscribe to the channel right now because this one, it will take you places you are not ready for. The restaurant was called Luelle. Small, French, tucked between two office towers in downtown Carasena. The sort of place where proposals happened, where anniversaries were celebrated, where a woman like Seraphine Moko would sit alone at a corner table, watching couples laugh, wondering what she did wrong. She had been with Dimitri for 2 years. 2 years of promises, half-truths, late-night excuses, and just enough affection to keep her hoping. Tonight was supposed to be different. He had said so himself. Something special. Dress up. 8 o'clock sharp. She had arrived at 7:45. By 9, the waiter stopped asking if she wanted to order. By 10, the restaurant was half empty. By 11, even the staff looked at her with pity, and pity from strangers was a wound that never fully healed. She checked her phone one more time. Nothing from him. But then she opened the social page, and there it was. A photo. Dimitri in a black suit, his arm around a woman she had never seen before. A rooftop. Champagne glasses. A caption that read, "Unforgettable night." She felt nothing. Absolutely nothing, like the last thread holding her together had just quietly snapped. She placed her phone face down on the table, folded the napkin neatly, stood up, and walked out without a word. The rain hit her immediately. Cold, heavy, relentless. Her heels clicked against the wet pavement, her dress clung to her skin. She didn't care. She kept walking. No direction, no destination. Just movement. Because if she stopped, she would have to feel, and feeling right now would destroy her. 3 blocks later, she ducked under the awning of a building she didn't recognize. Dark windows. No signage. Just a heavy black door slightly open. She stepped inside without thinking. The warmth hit her first. Then the smell. Rich. Layered. Something cooking. A kitchen. She had walked into the service entrance of a building she had no business being in. A voice from the back startled her. "Kitchen is closed." She froze. "I am sorry. I didn't mean to." A man appeared from behind a steel counter. Older, tired eyes, an apron stained with the night's work. He looked at her. Soaking wet. Red dress, mascara faintly running. He didn't ask questions. He just pointed to a stool near the counter. "Sit." She did. He placed a bowl in front of her without a word. A stew. Simple, warm, fragrant. She hadn't eaten all day. Her hands were shaking. She picked up the spoon. And the moment the food touched her lips, something broke open inside her. Not sadness, not grief. Something older, deeper. A memory of her grandmother's kitchen, of being small and safe, of being fed when the world was too big and too cruel. Tears came then. Quiet ones, the ones you don't wipe away because you don't want anyone to know they're falling. The old man didn't look at her. He just kept cleaning, giving her the dignity of falling apart in private. She finished the bowl, every drop, and when she looked up, she whispered, "Thank you." He nodded once. "Door at the end of the hall leads to the main lobby. You can wait for a cab there." She stood, steadied herself, and walked through the door. But the building she stepped into was not what she expected. It was marble, gold trim, security cameras in every corner, men in black suits standing like statues. And at the far end of the lobby, behind a glass wall, a man sat alone, still, watching her. Not with curiosity, not with concern, with something colder, something calculating. His name was Calum Dragon, and no one walked into his building by accident. But she just had. And what happened next changed everything. Seraphine didn't make it to the front door. A hand caught her elbow before she reached the exit. Firm, not rough. Professional. Miss, please come with me. Her heart jumped. I was just leaving. That is not an option right now. She turned. Two men. Earpieces. Hands folded in front of them. I didn't do anything. I just walked in from the rain. We understand. But you have been seen. Those 4 words. You have been seen. They landed like a sentence. She was escorted down a hallway she hadn't noticed before. Longer than it should have been. Quieter. Every step echoed. Her wet shoes squeaked against the marble. They stopped in front of a door. Dark wood. No handle on the outside. One of the men knocked twice. A voice from inside. Low. Controlled. Let her in. The door opened, and Seraphine stepped into a room that felt like it existed outside of time. Dim lighting, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, rain streaking down the glass like the building itself was crying. And at a desk near the window, not sitting behind it but leaning against the front of it, arms crossed, was Calum Dragon. She had never seen a man like him before, not handsome in the way magazines sold it. Handsome in the way a storm was beautiful. You didn't admire it, you survived it. Dark hair pushed back, eyes that were almost black, a jaw that looked like it had never unclenched. He wore a dark shirt, no tie, sleeves rolled once at the wrist. Everything about him was precise, intentional, controlled. He didn't speak. He just looked at her, and that silence pressed against her like a hand. I am sorry for being here, she started. Her voice was smaller than she wanted. I got lost in the rain and I found the kitchen entrance open and You walked into a private building. Not a question. Through a restricted service door. Another fact. Past 2 security checkpoints. A pause. In a red dress. Something about the way he said it made her stomach tighten. Not mocking. Not amused. Observing, like he was cataloging every detail and deciding what to do with them. I wasn't trying to. And yet, here you are. Silence. Long. Heavy. He pushed off the desk and walked toward the window, turning his back to her. Most people in her position would have begged to leave. Most people would have cried or stammered or broken down. But Seraphine had already broken down tonight. In the rain. At that restaurant. Over a man who didn't show up. She had nothing left to lose. And people with nothing to lose are the most dangerous people in any room. So she did something no one did in front of Calum Dragon. She spoke first. Are you going to let me leave or not? He stopped, turned his head slightly. Not all the way. Just enough. What did you just say? I asked if I can leave. I have had a long night. I am tired. I am wet. And I do not want to be here. A beat. Then something shifted in his expression. Not a smile, not even close, but the faintest crack in that perfect wall of control. You ate in my kitchen. I didn't know it was yours. You are wearing my chef's generosity on your face. Her hand went to her cheek instinctively. Tear tracks. She hadn't wiped them. Embarrassment burned through her. But she didn't look away. And that was the moment he noticed her. Not the red dress, not the intrusion, not the broken rules. Her. The woman who had been humiliated, abandoned, rained on, and dragged into a room full of power, and still looked him in the eye. He turned fully now, facing her. What is your name? Seraphine. Seraphine what? Moko. He repeated it quietly, like he was tasting it, deciding if it belonged in his world. Sit down, Seraphine Moko. It wasn't a request, but something about the way he said her name made it feel like one, and that was her second mistake of the night. The first was walking in, the second was staying, because what came next, she could never undo. She sat, not because she wanted to, because her legs were finished. The adrenaline, the cold, the hunger, the heartbreak, all of it had finally caught up. Caleb didn't sit. He stood by the window, watching the rain, and asked her a question she wasn't expecting. Why were you alone tonight? Her jaw tightened. That is personal. You are in my building. Everything becomes my business. I was supposed to meet someone. He didn't show up. And the dress? I thought tonight mattered. A pause. It didn't. Something flickered behind his eyes. Quick. Gone. He reached for a phone on his desk and pressed a single button. Ivara. Bring a car to the front. Then he looked at her. You will be driven home. Relief flooded her chest. Thank you. But he wasn't finished. And you will come back tomorrow. Her relief vanished instantly. Excuse me? 9 in the morning. Ask for the private floor. Why? He picked up a glass from his desk, took a slow sip. Because I have a proposition for you. Her stomach twisted. I am not that kind of. Careful. His voice dropped. Not threatening. Precise. Do not finish that sentence. You'll embarrass yourself, not me. She swallowed. Then what do you want? He set the glass down. Your file says you studied culinary arts at the Marceline Institute. Top of your class. Dropped out in year 3. No explanation. Her blood went cold. How do you have my file? I have been in this building for 20 minutes. He didn't answer that. My executive kitchen lost its head chef this week. Fired. The replacement is inadequate. You walked into my kitchen tonight, ate a bowl of food, and the look on your face told me more about your palate than any resume could. A pause. I am offering you a trial. She stared at him. You do not know me. I know you have training you abandoned. I know you have instincts you have not used. And I know you sat in a restaurant tonight for hours waiting for a man who was never going to come. That last part hit like a blade. Not cruel, just honest. The worst kind of honest. And she didn't have a response because he was right. About everything. 9 o'clock, he said again. Don't be late. She left that night in a black car she didn't understand, wrapped in a coat someone handed her at the door, riding through streets she couldn't see through the rain. And her mind kept circling one question. Why? Why would a man like that offer anything to a woman like her? She didn't sleep. Not even a minute. The next morning, she almost didn't go. She stood in her apartment, staring at the address he had given her, her hands trembling. Every instinct screamed to walk away. But then she looked at her phone. Dimitri's photo was still there. That woman. That caption. Unforgettable night. And something inside her shifted. Not revenge, not spite. Something quieter. I am done being the woman who waits. She showed up at 8:55. The lobby looked different in daylight. Sharper. Colder. A woman met her at the elevator. Tall, flawless, clipboard in hand. You are the trial? Seraphine nodded. The woman looked her up and down. Slowly. Follow me. The tone said everything. You don't belong here. The kitchen she was taken to was nothing like the one from last night. This was the private floor kitchen. Glass walls, imported marble counters. Equipment that cost more than her apartment. 3 sous chefs stood at their stations. They didn't look at her. Their posture said it all. Outsider, temporary, gone by lunch. And then a voice came through the intercom. His voice. Has she arrived? The woman with the clipboard answered. Yes, sir. Send her in after prep. I want to taste everything she makes today. Everything. The intercom clicked off. Every head in the kitchen turned toward Seraphine, and in their eyes she saw exactly what she expected: resentment, suspicion, jealousy. A man like Calum Dragon did not personally request trial tastings. He didn't involve himself in kitchen hires. He didn't notice people at her level. And the fact that he had noticed her meant one of two things. Either she was incredibly lucky, or she was already marked. What she didn't know yet was that it was both, and the person who would make sure she understood that was already watching from across the room. She felt the eyes before she saw the face. Seraphine had spent the morning cooking. 3 dishes, each one precise, layered, intentional. The sous chefs ignored her. The kitchen staff moved around her like she was furniture. She was used to that. But one person was not ignoring her. She noticed her during the second dish. A woman standing near the glass partition that separated the kitchen from the private dining corridor. Not staff, not kitchen. Something else entirely. She wore cream silk. Her hair was pulled back in a way that looked effortless but probably took an hour. Her posture was the sort that came from growing up in rooms where people stood when you entered. She was watching Seraphine the way someone watches an insect on their windowsill. Curious, but already deciding whether to crush it. After the third dish was sent out, Seraphine stepped into the corridor to wash her hands. The woman was there, waiting, too close for a stranger. You are the one from last night. Seraphine dried her hands slowly. I am the trial chef. A soft laugh. Is that what he told you? Something about her tone made Seraphine's pulse quicken. I am sorry. Who are you? The woman tilted her head slightly. My name is Odessa Kale. A pause. I run the Dragon Foundation. I oversee his public relations, his social calendar, and his image. Another pause. Slower this time. And I have known Calum for 11 years. The weight of that sentence was deliberate, not said casually. Said like a territory marker, like a fence being drawn around something. Seraphine kept her expression neutral. That is a long time. It is. Odessa stepped closer. Her perfume was expensive, the sort that didn't announce itself, it simply existed. Like wealth. Like power. So, when someone new appears out of nowhere, soaking wet in a red dress and suddenly he is rearranging his kitchen staff? A smile. Cold. Perfect. I notice. Seraphine met her gaze. I am just here to cook. Of course you are. Odessa's eyes moved slowly down Seraphine's face, not admiring, measuring. But let me offer you something no one else here will. Honesty. Women who catch his attention do not last. Not because he loses interest. A pause. Because I make sure of it. The air between them went still. Is that a threat? Odessa smiled again. Wider this time, but her eyes stayed exactly the same. Empty. Controlled. It is a kindness. The last one you will receive from me. She turned and walked away. Her heels clicked against the marble in perfect rhythm. Each step measured, each step a message. Seraphine stood there, hands still damp, heart still pounding. She understood something very clearly now. The kitchen was not the battlefield. It never was. She had walked into something far bigger than a job trial. And the most dangerous person in this building was not the man who owned it. It was the woman who believed she owned him. 3 days passed. Seraphine cooked. Morning, afternoon, evening. Every meal sent to the private dining room. Every plate returned empty. No feedback, no compliments, no criticism. Just silence. And silence from a man like Calum Dragon was impossible to read. On the 4th morning, everything changed. She arrived at the kitchen at her usual time, 8:45. But the sous chefs were not there. The stations were empty. The lights were dimmed to half. And sitting at the counter in the center of the kitchen, alone, was Calum. She stopped in the doorway. Where is everyone? I sent them home. All of them? Is there an echo in here? She swallowed, stepped inside slowly. The kitchen felt different without the noise, without the bodies, without the barrier of other people between them. Intimate, dangerous. I want you to cook something, he said. His eyes didn't leave hers. Not from the menu, not from technique, from memory. She frowned. From memory? Something that means something to you. Something you have never cooked for anyone else. Her chest tightened. Because that request was not about food. It was about trust. And trust was something she had stopped giving a long time ago. She stood still for a moment, thinking, and then she moved. Not toward the imported ingredients, not toward the premium shelf. She opened the lower cabinet, the one the sous chefs never touched. Basic stock, simple grains, root vegetables, things that didn't belong in a kitchen like this. She began, slow at first, her hands remembering before her mind did. Chopping, seasoning. The smell rose gradually, earthy, warm, something old, something from a place she hadn't visited in years, her grandmother's kitchen in Basara, where food was not performance, it was love made physical. Her hands moved faster now, confident, not trained confidence, inherited confidence, the sort that lived in your bones before anyone taught you a single thing. She didn't taste as she went. She didn't need to. She knew this dish the way she knew her own heartbeat. Caleb didn't move the entire time. He didn't check his phone. He didn't look away. He watched her hands, her face, the way her breathing steadied, the way her shoulders dropped, the way she became someone else entirely when she cooked. Someone who was not afraid. Someone who belonged. 20 minutes later, she placed the bowl in front of him. A grain stew. Thick, golden, fragrant with turmeric and slow-roasted garlic. Simple. Nothing a fine dining critic would look twice at. Everything a human being would remember forever. He looked at the bowl, then at her. What is this called? It doesn't have a name. A pause. My grandmother just called it the warm thing. She made it when I was sick, or sad, or when the world outside was too loud. Silence. He picked up the spoon, and she stood there, watching, waiting, the same way she always waited. For judgment, for rejection, for the moment someone decided she wasn't enough. He tasted it. Slowly. His expression didn't change. He set the spoon down, looked at the bowl for a long moment, then looked at her. Who taught your grandmother? The question surprised her. No one. She never followed a recipe in her life, never had formal training. She just knew. Knew what? How to make people feel safe. Something happened in his face then. Not a crack. Not a break. More like a door opening an inch. Just enough to let a sliver of light through. And what she saw behind that door, just for a second, was not the man who ran an empire. It was someone who hadn't felt safe in a very long time. He stood up, pushed the stool back, walked toward the window, his back to her again. That familiar position, the one that meant he was processing something he didn't want her to see. You have a gift, he said quietly. It is not technique. It is not training. A pause. It is the thing that cannot be taught. Her grandmother used to say that too. She was right. Another pause. Longer. You are wasting it. What? This kitchen, this building, this trial. He turned slightly. You are bigger than all of it. No one had ever said anything like that to her. Not Dmitri, not her teachers, not anyone. And hearing it from him, a man who said almost nothing, a man whose words were weapons or walls, never decorations, it broke something open inside her that she had been holding shut for years. She blinked rapidly, looked down. I do not know where else to go. The words came out before she could stop them. Small, honest, silence. Then his voice. Quieter than she had ever heard it. Then stay. One word. 2 letters. But the way he said it, it didn't sound like an instruction. It sounded like someone who understood what it meant to have nowhere. And that was the moment she realized something terrifying. She wasn't afraid of him anymore. She was afraid of how much she wanted to stay. But what neither of them knew was that someone had been listening, and what she heard was enough to set everything on fire. The invitation arrived on a silver tray, handwritten, black ink on bone-white cardstock. The Dragon Group Annual Benefactors Dinner. Your attendance is required. Main Hall, 7 o'clock. Seraphine stared at it. Required. Not requested. Required. She found the woman with the clipboard. There must be a mistake. I am kitchen staff. The woman didn't even look up. Mr. Dragon requested you attend. You will present each course personally to the benefactors. Her stomach dropped. Present? I am not a server. I am a. You are whatever he decides you are. Cold, final, efficient. The main hall that evening was something out of a different world. Crystal chandeliers casting warm, fractured light across 40-foot ceilings. Tables draped in white linen. Men in tailored suits. Women in gowns that moved like water. And Seraphine stood at the edge of it in a borrowed black dress that didn't quite fit, holding a plate, trying not to shake. She served the first course, a citrus-cured salmon with shaved fennel, her creation, and no one acknowledged her. She served the second course, a slow braised lamb with pomegranate reduction. One man took the plate without looking at her. Another waved her away before she could set it down. She kept moving. And then, the third course, a woman at the center table, draped in emerald silk, diamonds catching light at every angle, looked at the plate and wrinkled her nose. What is this? Seared duck breast with a black cherry glaze and... I didn't ask for a lecture. The table laughed. Seraphine's face burned. I was told it has walnuts. I am allergic. Are you trying to kill me? There are no walnuts in this dish, ma'am. Take it back. Ma'am, I assure you. I said take it back. The woman's voice rose, sharp, cutting, designed to draw attention, and it worked. Half the room turned, and across the room, she saw her. Odessa, sitting at the head table, watching, smiling, that same cold, perfect smile. And the woman in emerald whispered loud enough for Seraphine to hear. This is what happens when they pull staff off the street. No standards, no class. She had heard versions of that her entire life. Different rooms, different faces, same message. You don't belong here. She turned to leave, but then a voice cut through the room like a blade through silk. She stays. Everything stopped. Conversations died. Glasses paused mid-air. Forks were set down, because Calum Dragon had spoken. And when he spoke in a room, the room obeyed. He stood slowly from his seat at the far end of the hall. Every eye tracked him. He walked toward Seraphine with a calm that was more terrifying than anger. He stopped beside her. Close, not touching, but close enough that the entire room understood. This woman, he said, his voice carrying effortlessly, prepared every dish you have eaten tonight, every course, every flavor, every detail. He looked at the woman in emerald, including the one in front of you, which contains no walnuts. A pause. Perhaps your palate is not as refined as your jewelry? The woman's face went white, and Seraphine stood there, barely breathing, because no one had ever done that for her. Ever. In her entire life. Calum turned to her slightly, just enough that only she could hear. You do not leave a room because someone is too small to see you. Then he walked back to his seat, sat down, picked up his glass, and the dinner continued as if nothing had happened. But everything had happened. Every person in that room now knew two things. Seraphine Moko was under Calum Dragon's protection, and Odessa Kale, still smiling at the head table, had just watched the first crack form in the wall she had spent years building. It started small, designed to look accidental. Seraphine arrived at the kitchen the next morning to find her station reassigned. Her knives moved, her prep ingredients replaced. She said nothing. Adjusted. Cooked. The following day, her access card to the private floor stopped working. The day after that, a complaint was filed. Anonymous. Claiming unsanitary practices, an inspection was ordered. Results came back clean. But the message was clear. You are not welcome here. She knew who was behind it. Odessa's fingerprints were invisible by design. The woman operated through systems, through people, through the slow, suffocating machinery of institutional power. And Seraphine was running out of air. But the real escalation came on a Thursday evening. Seraphine was leaving the kitchen late. The building was quiet. She took the service corridor toward the back exit. The hallway was dimly lit, long, empty. Her footsteps echoed. And then she heard it. Another set of footsteps, behind her, matching her pace. She slowed. They slowed. She stopped. They stopped. Her heart climbed into her throat. She turned. No one there. She exhaled, turned back around, and walked straight into a man. Tall, broad, standing inches from her face. He caught her arm. Tight. Too tight. Wrong hallway, sweetheart. His voice was flat. Professional. Let go of me. Just delivering a message. His grip tightened. Some people think you have overstayed your welcome. Pain shot through her wrist. I said let go. And some people think you need help finding the exit. Permanently. A door slammed open at the end of the corridor. Light flooded in. And then a voice. Not loud. Quiet. The sort of quiet that made the air itself flinch. Remove your hand. The man froze. Calum Dragon stood at the end of the hallway. Jacket off. Sleeves rolled. His eyes locked onto the man's hand around Seraphine's wrist. And in those eyes there was something new. Wrath. Controlled. Compressed. White. Hot wrath. The man released her instantly. Mr. Dragon, I was just... Who sent you? I don't. I will ask one more time, and then I will stop asking. The man's composure cracked. I don't know her name. It came through the operations office. A woman. Dark hair. Said it was authorized. Calum kept his eyes on the man. You are going to leave this building. You are going to forget this hallway. And you are going to deliver a message back to whoever sent you. The man swallowed. What message? Calum moved closer. Close enough that the man pressed himself against the wall. Tell her the next person she sends will not walk out. The man left. Fast. Almost running. The corridor fell silent. Just the two of them. He turned to her. The wrath receded behind something else. Concern. Are you hurt? Her wrist was red, throbbing. I am fine. You're lying. I am used to it. That answer stopped him. Not because it was brave, because it was true. And the truth of it did something to him that rage could not. It made him gentle. He reached for her wrist. Slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers were warm. Careful. He turned her wrist slightly, examining the marks. This ends now, he said. Not to her. To himself. It won't stop. You know that. Then I will make it stop. She is too connected, too embedded. She has been in your world for 11 years. I have been here for 2 weeks. He met her eyes. And in 2 weeks, you have changed more than she has in 11. She didn't respond. Couldn't. He released her wrist gently. I am taking you home tonight. You don't have to. I know. A pause. I want to. But what she did not know was that Odessa had not just sent one message that night. She had sent 2, And the second one went much further than a hired man in a corridor. It went to someone from Seraphine's past, someone she thought was gone forever. And when that person arrived, everything Seraphine believed about herself would be destroyed. The call came at 6 in the morning. Seraphine was already awake. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Seraphine Moko? Yes. This is the Dragon Group Human Resources Division. Your trial period has been terminated effective immediately. Please return your access credentials to the front desk by noon today. Terminated? On what grounds? Operational restructuring. Your position has been eliminated. There was no position. I was on a personal trial authorized by. The authorization has been reviewed and rescinded. Please do not attempt to enter the private floor. Your credentials have already been deactivated. Thank you. The line went dead. She sat on the edge of her bed, phone still in her hand, and for a moment she was back at that restaurant. Red dress, melting candle, watching the hours pass, waiting for someone who was never going to show up. The feeling was the same, that familiar, gutting confirmation that she had been foolish to hope. People like her didn't get to stay in worlds like his. They visited, they were tolerated, and then they were removed. Quietly, cleanly, like they were never there at all. She packed her things. There wasn't much. Kitchen shoes, a notebook with recipes, a small jar of the turmeric blend she had brought for the grain stew. Everything fit into one bag. She took a cab to the building, walked through the lobby for what she assumed was the last time. The security guard took her credentials without looking at her. She turned toward the exit, and that was when the elevator doors opened. Caleb stepped out. He was mid-conversation with his right hand, a tall man named Jorek. Caleb's eyes swept the lobby the way they always did. Automatic. Scanning. And then they landed on her, standing by the front desk, bag in hand. He stopped walking. Jorek kept talking for 3 more seconds before realizing he was alone. Caleb crossed the lobby in 6 strides. What are you doing? His voice was low, controlled, but underneath it, something was fracturing. I was terminated this morning. By whom? Human Resources. They said the authorization was rescinded. His jaw tightened. He knew exactly who had done this. He turned to Jorek. Get Odessa on the phone. Now. Jorek hesitated. Sir, she is in a board meeting with the... Now. One word. No room for interpretation. Caleb turned back to Seraphine, and for the first time since she had known him, he looked like he was struggling. Not with anger. With the right words. You were not terminated. The call said. I don't care what the call said. I didn't authorize it. I didn't approve it. And it is not happening. She looked at him, tired. Not physically. Soul tired. Maybe it should happen. His expression shifted. What? Maybe she is right. Maybe I don't belong here. Maybe I am just. Do not finish that sentence. His voice was urgent, like he was trying to stop something from shattering. You keep saying that. Her voice cracked. Then what am I allowed to say? Silence. The lobby felt enormous around them. Say what you actually feel, he said quietly. No one in my life has ever let me do that. The words came out like a confession, raw, unplanned, and they hit him harder than anything she had ever cooked. Because he recognized that sentence. He had lived inside it for years, the silence of being powerful and completely alone. He reached for the bag in her hand, took it from her, set it on the floor. You are not leaving. Why? Because I am asking you not to. That is not a reason. It is the only one I have. Her vision blurred. You could have anyone in this building, anyone in this city. People who fit. People who belong. I don't want anyone in this city. A pause. I want the woman who made me feel safe with a bowl of stew at midnight. The lobby disappeared. The guards disappeared. The marble and the glass and the security cameras, all of it, gone. Just his voice, her breath, and a sentence she would remember for the rest of her life. No one had ever called her safe before. She had been called difficult, stubborn, too much, not enough, but never safe. And hearing it from a man who trusted nothing and no one, it broke the last wall she had left. She didn't speak. She just nodded. Once. Small. And he picked up her bag and walked her back to the elevator. Not beside her. Not in front of her. With her. And somewhere on a phone call, 3 floors above, Odessa Kale heard that her order had been reversed. And for the first time in 11 years, she felt something she had never felt in Calum Dragon's empire. Fear. He wasn't protecting Seraphine out of principle or convenience. He was protecting her because she mattered to him. And things that mattered to Calum Dragon became untouchable. Unless you were willing to start a war. And Odessa was. 3 days of quiet. No sabotage. No anonymous complaints. No hired men in corridors. Seraphine cooked. She refined her menu. She began training 2 junior staff members who had quietly started respecting her. Not because of Calum, because of her food. And she felt something she hadn't felt in as long as she could remember. Something close to belonging. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Seraphine was plating a lunch service when Jorek appeared in the kitchen doorway. His face was different, tighter, harder. "You need to come with me. I am in the middle of... now. Please." The please told her everything. Jorek never said please. She followed him through the corridor, past the private dining room, past Calum's study, to a part of the building she didn't know existed, a security wing, monitors on every wall. And in the center of the room, Calum stood with his back to her, staring at one screen. "Close the door," he said without turning. She did. "Do you know this man?" He stepped aside. On the screen was a photograph. A man. Late 40s. Silver hair cropped short. A face that looked like it had been carved from something hard and left in the sun too long. Deep-set eyes. A scar running from his left ear to the corner of his mouth. Her blood turned to ice. She did know that face. Not from memory. From something deeper. From nightmares. Seraphine. Calum's voice was steady. "Do you know him?" Her mouth opened. Closed. Her hands were shaking. "I don't. I'm not sure. I think. His name is Korath Ven." The name landed like a fist, not because she recognized it intellectually, because her body recognized it. Her pulse spiked. Her skin went cold. "He arrived in Karasina this morning," Calum continued. "Private charter. No official business registered." A pause. "He came to 3 places: the airport, a hotel, and this building." "This building?" "He sat in a car across the street for 40 minutes. Then he left." Calum turned to face her, and the look in his eyes was different from anything before. Controlled dread. The look of a man who had identified a threat he did not yet fully understand. Jorek ran his profile. Korath Ven is not a businessman. He is not a competitor. He is a ghost. Military intelligence background. Vanished from official records 15 years ago. Resurfaced in private security. High level. The sort that doesn't protect people. A pause. The sort that acquires them. "And you think he is here for me?" "I think Odessa made a call she should not have made, and I think that call reached someone who has been looking for you for a very long time." "Looking for me?" "Why would anyone be looking for me? I am nobody." "You keep saying that." His voice was quiet. "And every time you do, the evidence says otherwise." He reached for his phone. "Double the perimeter team. No one enters or exits without my direct authorization." He looked at her. "From this moment on, you do not leave this building alone. This is not a discussion." That night, she dreamed. Not the usual dreams. Something violent, fragmented, a house on fire, a woman screaming, hands pulling her through smoke, a man's voice saying a name, not Seraphine, a different name. She woke up gasping, and she wasn't sure if her past was something that had happened to her or something that had been done to her. Caleb did not sleep that night either. He sat in the security wing, Jorek beside him, paper files spread across the table. "It doesn't add up," Jorek said. Her records start at age 19. Birth certificate filed in Basara, school enrollment, culinary institute application, everything before that. He shook his head. Nothing. People don't appear at 19. She did. Caleb picked up the photograph of Korath Ven. Who erased her? Someone with resources. Government level or private military. The sort of wipe you only do when the person is either extremely dangerous or extremely valuable. Or both. A long silence. Then Caleb made a call he hadn't made in years. To a man he had hoped to never speak to again. A former intelligence operative named Durlan. The conversation lasted 4 minutes. At the end of it, Caleb set the phone down slowly. What did he say? Caleb stared at the table, and when he finally spoke, his voice was different, not controlled, shaken. She is not who she thinks she is. The next morning, he called her to the study. She arrived looking like she hadn't slept either. Dark circles under her eyes. He stood by the window. The city behind him, the sky overcast. "Sit down." She sat, and she waited. Because she could feel it. Whatever he was about to say was going to break something. "Your name," he began, then stopped. Started again. "The name you carry. Seraphine Moko." A pause. "It is not the name you were born with." Her cup trembled in her hands. "What are you talking about? 15 years ago, a family in West Africa was destroyed. Not bankrupted. Not disgraced. Destroyed. The father was a man named Obiora Sunda." Her heart began to pound, not because she recognized the name, because something inside her reacted to it. Something primal. The Sunde family controlled trade infrastructure across 3 nations, ports, roads, supply chains. They were not political, they were economic. But their influence threatened people who wanted that power for themselves. He paused. One night, the family compound was attacked. Fire, military-grade weapons. Everyone inside was killed. Everyone? That was the official report. But Durlan, the man I called last night, he was part of the team sent to verify the aftermath. He found something the official report didn't mention. What? A child. A girl. 6 years old. Pulled from the wreckage by a house worker who fled into the forest with her. The worker raised her in Basara under a new name, a new identity, a new life. The teacup slipped from her fingers, hit the floor, shattered. The worker's name, Caleb said quietly, was Adama Moko, her grandmother's name. The room spun. "Your real name is not Seraphine Moko." He stepped closer, close enough to catch her if she fell. "It is Seraphine Sunda. And you are the last surviving heir of the Sunda family." The sound that came out of her was not loud, it was the opposite. So small and broken it barely existed. She doubled over, gasping, because suddenly the dreams made sense. The fire, the screaming, the hands pulling her through smoke. It wasn't imagination, it was memory. Buried by a woman who loved her enough to erase her so she could survive. "My grandmother," she choked. "She wasn't. She was your protector. She gave up everything to keep you alive. She changed your records, moved you across borders, hid you in plain sight for 13 years until you were old enough to exist on your own." Tears streamed down her face. "Why didn't she tell me?" "Because telling you would have put you in danger. The people who destroyed your family never stopped looking." A pause. Korath Ven is one of them. He knows, she whispered. He suspects. That is why he is here. Someone told him where to look. Odessa. The name hung between them unspoken, but they both knew. Seraphine stood, shaking, tears still falling, but something in her posture changed. Not collapse, not surrender. Something harder, older, steel that came from blood. I need to see the files. Seraphine. All of them. Her voice steadied. Everything about my family. Everything about that night. Everything about who gave the order. He looked at her, and in that moment he saw someone who had been asleep her entire life and had just woken up. And what had woken up was not fragile. It was fire. He nodded once, opened a drawer, handed her the files, and watched as she sat down and began to read, page by page, name by name. She didn't cry again, not once. She was no longer Seraphine Moko, the woman who waited. She was Seraphine Sunda, and she was done waiting for anything. It took her 48 hours to read everything, every document, every intelligence report, every photograph. She memorized names, dates, routes, and when she was finished, she closed the last file, looked at Kalum, and said 3 words. I want him. Korath Ven is not a man you summon. Then bring him to me. I am not asking. Something in her voice had changed permanently. It was not louder. It was denser, heavier. Kalum studied her. If we move on Ven, we expose you, publicly, completely. There is no going back. I have been going back my entire life, hiding, running, shrinking. Her eyes locked onto his. I am finished. He engineered a stage. The Dragon Group announced an emergency summit, a gathering of the most powerful figures in the region's economic network. And at the center of it all, a single agenda item, the Sunday estate reclamation. The name Sunda hadn't been spoken in legitimate circles for 15 years. Its reappearance sent shockwaves through every back channel in the city. People panicked. People made moves they shouldn't have. And that was exactly what Kalum wanted. Chaos revealed loyalties. Panic exposed enemies. And enemies who were exposed could be destroyed. The summit was held in the Dragon Group's main conference hall. 200 seats. Everyone filled. Armed security at every entrance. Cameras running. At the front of the room, 2 chairs. One for Kalum Dragon. One left empty. The room buzzed. And then the doors opened. Seraphine walked in. Not in a borrowed dress. Not in kitchen whites. She wore black. Simple. Sharp. Her hair pulled back. Her chin lifted. And her eyes were not the eyes of a woman who had been scrubbing pots 2 weeks ago. They were the eyes of someone reclaiming a throne. The room went silent. Kalum stood. Not to introduce her. To make room. She took the empty chair and looked out at 200 faces. In the 3rd row, sitting perfectly still, was Korath Ven, his scar catching the light, and beside him, Odessa Kale, pale, rigid. Seraphine spoke. My name is Seraphine Sunda. The room rippled. Murmurs, gasps. 15 years ago, my family was murdered. Our assets were seized. Our name was erased. And I was hidden by a woman who loved me more than her own survival, so that one day I could stand in a room exactly like this one. She paused. That day is today. She looked directly at Korath Ven. You have been looking for me. Here I am. Ven didn't move. Then he did something no one expected. He stood, slowly, and he smiled, the sort of smile that had no warmth in it. You look like your father. The words hit her, but she didn't flinch. I have more than his face. Is that a threat? It is a promise. And Kalum, sitting beside her, did something extraordinary. He didn't intervene. He didn't speak. He let her lead. Because this was her moment, her war, her name. Ven looked at Kalum. You are making a mistake, Dragon. I have made many. Caleb's voice was calm, almost bored. This is not one of them. Ven looked back at Seraphine. You think a name protects you? No? She stood. I think the truth does. She pressed a button on the table. The screens behind her lit up. Documents, financial records, transfer orders, military contracts. 15 years of evidence meticulously assembled by Caleb's intelligence network. Every transaction, every payment, every signature that connected Korath Ven to the destruction of the Sunda family. The room erupted, not with violence, with consequence. In a room full of powerful people, evidence was more dangerous than any weapon. Ven's allies began distancing immediately. Chairs pushed back. Phone calls made under the table. His protection collapsed in 90 seconds. And Odessa finally broke. She stood. This is a fabrication. This woman is a fraud. Sit down, Odessa. Caleb's voice cut through the room. You brought Ven to this city. You made the call. You thought removing her would remove the problem. He looked at her, and in his eyes there was no anger. There was finality. You were the problem. Her composure crumbled. She sat, and she did not speak again. Ven was escorted out by private security, his assets frozen by legal injunctions filed simultaneously in 3 jurisdictions, his network dismantled, not with gunfire, with truth. On record, in public, undeniable. And Seraphine stood there, at the front of that room, not shaking, not crying, not waiting, standing, in her own name, for the first time in her life. And beside her, Caleb Dragon looked at her the way he had looked at her the very first night, in the lobby, soaking wet in a red dress. But this time, he wasn't calculating. He was certain. The building was quiet. The summit had ended 4 hours ago. The guests had left. The security teams had stood down. And Seraphine stood on the rooftop terrace, looking out at the city. The same city she had walked through in the rain 2 weeks ago, broken, invisible, waiting for a man who never showed up. She heard him before she saw him. The door opening behind her. His footsteps. Measured. Familiar now. He stopped a few feet away. You should be sleeping, he said. So should you. Silence. The city hummed below them. You were extraordinary today. She almost smiled. I was terrified. I know. A pause. That is what made it extraordinary. She turned slightly, and in the dim light of the terrace, stripped of the suits and the security and the empire, he looked like what he was. A man. Uncertain. And she realized she had not once, in all the days she had known him, seen him uncertain. I am leaving Karesina, she said. The words landed quietly, but they hit hard. His jaw tightened, his hand flexed at his side. When? This week. I have the files, the legal documentation. The Sunday estate has holdings in 3 countries, all frozen, all waiting for a legitimate heir to reclaim them. A pause. That is me now. I know. It will take years. Lawyers, governments, people who don't want me to succeed. I know. And I cannot do it from here. He stepped forward. 1 step. Leaving room. Giving her space to choose. You could stay. She closed her eyes. Because she had heard those words before. From him. In the kitchen. Stay. And it had meant everything then. It meant something different now. I can't stay the way I was. He nodded slowly. I was someone who waited, Caleb. That is all I did. I waited for Dimitri. I waited for the trial. I waited for you to see me. I waited for my own life to begin. Her voice trembled but held. I am done waiting. He looked at her, and something in his expression shifted. Not pain, acceptance, the most difficult sort. Then go. 2 words. Simple, final. But she didn't move, because he wasn't finished. Go, he said again, quieter. Rebuild your name. Reclaim what was taken. Become who you were always supposed to be. But know this. His voice dropped. The night you walked into my building, I thought you were a disruption. A pause. You were. You disrupted everything. My systems, my walls, my certainty that I didn't need anyone. Caleb, I have spent my entire life building an empire that no one could touch. His voice cracked. Just barely. And you walked in and made me realize I had built a prison. A tear slid down her cheek. I did not plan for you, he said. I did not want this. I do not do this. A breath. But I am standing here anyway. She stepped closer. Why? Because you asked me once what I wanted. You didn't answer. I am answering now. Silence. The city below. The sky above. I don't want to protect you, he said. I don't want to keep you. I don't want to own what you're becoming. He reached for her hand. Not grabbing. Offering. I want to choose you. Not as someone I saved. Not as someone who stayed because she had nowhere else to go. His fingers closed around hers. As someone who came back. On her own terms. When she was ready. She looked down at their hands, then up at his face, and she saw it clearly. The man who had sat in that study the first night, calculating, controlled, unreachable, he was gone. In his place was someone who had been alone for too long, someone who had mistaken power for safety, someone who had just learned that the bravest thing in the world was not strength. It was surrender. I will come back, she said. Not a promise made from need, a promise made from choice. He nodded. Once. And then he did something he had never done before. He pulled her closer. Not to stop her, not to keep her, but to hold her. Just for a moment. Just long enough for both of them to remember what it felt like to not be alone. And standing there, on the rooftop of the building she had stumbled into on the worst night of her life, Seraphine Sunda realized something. She had walked into that restaurant expecting love and found emptiness. She had walked into this building expecting nothing and found everything. And the man who once said he didn't repeat himself had just told her, in every way that mattered, that she was worth repeating, worth choosing, worth waiting for. And this time, she wouldn't be waiting alone. If this story touched your heart, subscribe now for more unforgettable emotional stories like this one, because the next one, it might change the way you see everything.